Howdy there, folks. We've got an oldie but a goodie. I don't see as many of these as I used to, but we've got a Jennings Buckmaster, the original version, in for a restring. We'll do a quick overview of what we got going on here. Of course, we're putting some of our strings on it we made. He just said he wanted something sort of earth tony, so we got like a gold and a kiwi type color going on. We got a Jennings Buckmaster. He's got an old school, what looks to be a Archer's Choice 5-pin sight on it. An old school Tiger Tough TM Hunter style rest, which it'll be fun to play with this again because, you know, back in the day you could tune arrow flight with spring tension on these rests. So I'm looking forward to playing with that a little bit. Shooting an aluminum arrow still, 2413. So let's get to it. This should be a fun restring. Fairly simple, but something out of the ordinary. Thought y'all might like it. These bows were real popular around the early 2000 time frame. We still see some, not as many as we did, you know, a few years back, but we still get them into restring and stuff. So I just thought maybe somebody out there had one and wouldn't mind seeing a video on it, or maybe you've owned one. If you have owned one, let me know in the comments that you've shot one. I'd be curious to know who all started with something like this. Seems like the older generation of people started with like a Bear Whitetail 2. And then some of the younger folk started with a bow like this. But it still has the swivel arm that you see on a lot of the Bear bows today. So Jennings and Bear became one company, I guess somewhere around the early 2000 mark. And for a while they were known as Bear Jennings. And then slowly the Jennings part of it phased out, and it became, you had Bear and Fred Bear, and then the Fred Bear part phased out, and now it's just Bear. So as companies have ate up each other and bought each other out and all that type of thing, that's kind of what happened. But and now Bear, which we are a Bear dealer. If you need anything to do with Bear, give us a holler. But they own Trophy Ridge and a couple broadhead companies and this, that, and the other. So it just changes over the years. Get this fed through here. We're in the peak of our busy time as I'm recording this. We actually hadn't put out a video, like a restringing video, in a while, just because it takes so long to put it together. But this morning I was like, I wouldn't mind throwing a video together on something different, and we got about 50 bows to choose from here, and this one I thought would be a little different. So hopefully we'll go through the whole process like we normally do. We're going to string it, we're going to tune it up, put a loop on it, paper tune it, the whole 9 yards. We've been getting a lot of views on our Thursday night live feeds, which is mainly all we've been doing that in the podcast lately. I'm looking forward to it slowing down a little bit to where we can get back to doing some different type of videos. A lot of our tournament season was shot because of the COVID, so we didn't have many of those videos this year. Get on there, you booger. I don't think this bow had the original strings on it, which is good. It did have some older strings. It looked like they actually were zebra strings that we just took off of there. So there we go. If you're new to our channel and you don't mind, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit the old like and subscribe button. It helps the, I guess they call it the algorithm of YouTube. It helps other people to find our videos and that sort of thing. So if you can, give us a thumbs up. Let us know if you got anything you'd like to see, any comments, questions. It's funny, we do some of these bows, and one of the more popular videos we've done, I think, was one of the Bowtech videos, and I guess a lot of people must own that particular bow, and I get a ton of calls and emails and questions about it. But if you have anything we can do for you, you can always look in the description. I got our phone number here to the shop, and we'll be happy to answer anything or help you any way we can. We get a lot of folks call, and I've tried to get past that thought of we're only doing this trying to sell you something. We're not. I'm just kind of documenting what we do and that sort of thing. Now, don't get me wrong, if you need a bowstring, or if you'd like to ship in your bow, or if you're local, we'd be happy to work on your stuff. But I like this video stuff, so it kind of gives me something to do while we're doing what we already do. But we get a ton of calls every week because of these videos, asking questions about arrows and about bows. And hey, I saw you restring this bow. I've got that bow. What do you think about XYZ? We probably get a good, 20 calls a week just from that. So I think that's pretty cool. So just let us know what any way we can help you, I guess is what I'm saying. Get these clicked in here. Perfect. We're pretty much at a good starting point. We're going to take it over to the vise. So this is an older bow. These cams don't have what you would call a mark to set perfect cam rotation with. So really all we got to go by is a couple things. Our axle to axle length, our brace height, our poundage, and I know that we started with a string and cable that was measured dead to factory specs on 100 pounds with a 1/4 inch post, the AMO, the ATA, whatever you want to call it, standard. So we should be at a good starting point. As soon as I take it out of the press to walk over there, I'm going to check my axle to axle. We should be right on the money. So let's mosey over to the vise and we'll start getting this thing set up. Okay, we made it over here to the bow vise. We got our old school Easton Camo Hunter 4-inch AAE vanes. Looks like he's shooting a 100 grain tip, 24-13 sized arrow. That's about right where I would start with my spring tension. The one thing I am going to do is this rest is, to me, it's a good bit too horizontal. I'm going to drop it down. It don't give us enough spring action, and it's almost, the vane is almost hitting the bottom of this launcher. So what I'm going to do before we even get going here is grab this pack of Allen wrenches over here. Well, maybe they're not over here. Here we go. I'm going to lower this rest down and probably bring up that arm so that we get a little more action to our launcher itself. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring that arm up a little bit to compensate for what I just did there. Now we're cooking. So really what happens with one of these spring tension style rests is, if you've ever watched one slow motion, they actually flex down. The momentum of the arrow flexes it down as it's taken off. So I didn't want it, and it goes into, back in the day with my testing with these, if you get it too stiff, it's almost like it'll flex it down and it'll come back up and hit the back of the arrow and give you a tail high tear. And then it's just as bad to have too little tension, to where it maybe is not even all the way up at full draw, or it flexes down too early and comes up and hits. There's a bunch of different stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can correct, or could correct, when this was a thing back in the day, with spring tension on this rest. So we got the one of the big things about the TM Hunter style rest is keeping them quiet, but this one's got the shrink tubing on it. You could shrink tube them. You could put you could take fingernail polish, clear fingernail polish, and coat it. But anyway, we're good. So I'm gonna level the string up, get the bow level here. Pretty close. The reason I level the string, I used to be bad about leveling the riser, and this is a good flat riser, but you never know. Like on this bow, it looks pretty close, but a lot of your older bows, the bottom of the cam on the bottom, the string would be closer to the axle than the top. So the string, which is what you want to be perfectly level, would not be level with the shelf riser. So it's probably best to just go ahead and level that string. I know some people leave their bow in like a press and level the string horizontally and then let the arrow hang. You're pretty much doing the same thing. All right, my string's level. Now on this bow, just from playing with them in the past and this style of bow, I'm gonna just put that thing about an 1/8 inch knock high, just barely. And that's where we're gonna start at. I'm gonna go ahead and do my normal knock ties like I do, and all that good stuff. Even though this is a longer axle to axle bow, let me bring you in closer so that you can, I know I've videoed this part before, but so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so we're level. There we go, pretty good focus. We're level. I'm gonna wrap this around and I'm gonna tie it right above the knock. I'm gonna get my first knot, and then I'm really gonna pull it. My pinkies stay cut up. See all those black cuts where the servants got into them this time of the year? My fingers, my pinkies, they stay cut up from doing this, but I just like to get it good and tight. Back to this side, all I'm doing is putting a knot this side and not that side. And I'm just pulling it super tight. Oh, we've lost our focus here. Let me remedy this real quick. Now we're back. Okay, so I've got 3 rows of knots. I'll lock that knot. I don't know why we keep losing our focus. We're back. I'm gonna go ahead and burn this and get it out of the way. Okay. Slide it back up. And now, this is one of those things here that, like, you just kind of got to get a feel for it. But this is a longer axle to axle bow, but I'm still going to put just a slight bit of gap when I tie this one. Not a ton, just the tiniest amount. And the reason that is, that string angle at full draw, if you don't put that little bit of gap, it will still pick that arrow up and lift it off the rest. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. So Now, if you get a little short 28-inch bow or something like that, sometimes you got to put a little bit more gap than that. And if you want to test it and tie one of these, have somebody draw. I had to do it yesterday with a guy. He was like, "Is it supposed to have play in it?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, let me draw it and I'll show you why." So I drew it back and I told him, I said, grab that arrow and try to wiggle it up and down now at full draw. And you couldn't. It's because that it's trying to pinch it. And even with that gap at that angle, that little bit of extra room disappears. So I know there's been some talk about that, and I know we have. I'm going to get a better focus point. We've lost our focus again. That string's not big enough for this camera to want to focus on. I'll tell you what, for now I'm just going to back us back up so that you can see, you got the gist of what we're doing here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this glue and put a tiny little dot around the perimeter of what I just tied. When I do this, sometimes I use the brush glue. I feel like this puts a little better bead sometimes, but I'm being very careful to not get it on the center serving itself. I'm putting a tiny dot and then I'm just taking the tip of the glue thing and raking it around. So on occasion, if I have to remove this, the way I do it is, first of all, I'm gonna spray it with this accelerator. Okay. Anyway, if I have to remove it, all I got to do is grab it with either a little set of needle nose or these little cutters, and I'll be real careful and I'll just cut the knot itself. And even with that glue on there, I can peel it back off and the center serving is still preserved. If you smear it all over the center serving, then you're gonna have a mess. We'll go ahead and throw his loop on there. Let me make sure we're still in focus. I think we're okay. Throw his loop on there. And then all we got to do is tie in some new cat whiskers, tie in his peep, and then go check our our idler lean and that sort of thing. Let that cool off for a minute. I miss doing cat whiskers all the time. They're one of the better things to get noise out of a string. These are what cat whiskers are. Can you see that? I haven't focused. This thing's being finicky. There we go. Oop, I hit the tripod. They pretty much all the energy from that twang is going into each individual piece of this rubber. Anyway, I like them. But we rarely put them on anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and stretch out this loop. You've seen me talk about them before, but I use these little Craftsman micro needle nose. They're stainless, so they don't rust. I like them. You can find them online. I think I put them in the description of the video. I can't remember. There's a couple tools I put down there. So I definitely didn't dig it into the center serving, but it's tight. It ain't going nowhere. Let's go ahead and check our peep height. We're close. We're going to end up flipping it around 180. These little string separators are super handy. I'm pretty sure I have those in the description. People kept asking me about like common tools and where to get them, so I just found, I was like, well, let me put a couple links in the description. And if you were to order any of those, they're cheap, but it's an affiliate link. I think it gives us a few pennies, so that's always a plus. Okay, we got our height set to what it was before. Now we're going, I'm dropping stuff. Serving jig down. Okay, we're going to tie this in tying those cat whiskers, and then we'll be on our way to go check other stuff. If you like these type of videos, definitely let us know in the comments. I struggle with what content people like. I don't know. I feel like this gets boring because it's like the same thing over and over and over. I know each bow's a little different, so I don't know if, I guess everybody likes something different is what I'm getting at. Some people like the 3D style shoot videos. Some people like tuning videos. Some people like bow overviews. Let us know what we can make that'll interest you. And I like to keep it changed up. I hate doing the same thing over and over. So I'm just tying this in. I think I've made a video before about multiple ways of tying these peeps in. This is the quickest. You just keep throwing knots and then burn the serving. I lined it up with his old peep, but this one, if I really needed to move it, I could really bow up on it with my fingernails and get it to move when he picks it up. Okay, so I'm over here at my draw board. The first thing I'm going to check is cam lean. And as most of you know from my other videos, I use a spot hog laser. I'm going to check this idler wheel. I'm putting the lasers at the tip of the limb on the right side. Where are you at on the left side? I'm hitting the roller. All right, I need to put about... I need about a twist in the right yoke to get that lined up. I would take you over there, but it'll literally take like 3 seconds. So just stand by and I'll be right back. Okay. One thing I also adjusted is he's wanting this bow on about 65 pounds. So let's see where we end up at. .1, that works. Get to our draw. See if our twist fixed it. Where are you at? That laser keeps hitting this arm on this bow. There we go. We're at the end of the limb. That should be good. I'm gonna eyeball it from beneath just to see what I see. That looks good for me. So now we'll go back to the paper tuner, see what it does to the paper. Hopefully I have to make a few adjustments since we got some spring tension to play with. And then she'll be ready to be picked up. Okie dokie, here we are to see what she does through the paper. We'll make sure that our vein is lined up through our rest. It is. Let's just take a shot. 65 pounds, 29-inch draw, 2413. I hadn't weighed it, but I will. I'll let you know in a minute what it weighs. Here we go. Woo! It is crazy how much this bow kicks compared to a new bow. Let me show you. We're getting a tail high kick. Whoa. So if you're unfamiliar with paper tuning stuff, here's our tip and here's two fletchings, so it's coming in tail high. To remedy this, I'm gonna start by, on this bow, I'm gonna start by taking a little bit of spring tension off, because it does feel a smidgen stiff. And what I'm wondering is if it's so stiff that it's catching the back of the arrow. So let me do that. And then this bow don't have a stabilizer or anything like that on it, but I cannot get over it, the amount of, it's just funny, you know, something that I was once used to in bows, now they're so vibration free, and this is not even vibration, it's just straight kick. I about dropped the thing. All right, here's a tad less spring tension. About the same tear. So I'm gonna get my wrenches here. I don't know if you can see me. I'm gonna take a little bit more off. I don't like to do a huge adjustment all at once. Okay, let's see what that does. I've had people ask this as well. I should have mentioned it when we're in there at the vise. As far as center shot goes, I did just eyeball it. It's definitely close. If I put the string center of the riser and look down, the arrow's in the center of the string. Usually if a bow comes in, I will initially assume that it was tuned, you know, when the last string was put on it. So like, of course, if we'd have got a left or right kick, I would have went in there and whooped out my gauge or something, but most of the time the center shot won't be, you know, changed since the last time it was set up or initially set up. So that's, you know, I'll eyeball it, but unless it looks way out of whack, I'll usually leave it alone until we get to this process. But since we've just got a tail high kick, we shouldn't have to fool with the center shot. All right, here's even less spring tension. Now that is a good bit better. That's almost a bullet hole, so that tells me we're doing the right thing. We've still got plenty of spring tension, so I'm gonna lower on this rest. Let me show you here. You know, all you do to lessen the spring tension is loosen this, and that's your tension. You can tighten it or loosen it. So I'm loosening it. And if we had to set center shot on this rest, we would loosen both of these collars, and that whole launcher will slide in and out. So anyway, let me take a little more spring tension off. We just got a good bit better tear than we've had. I'm just moving this collar roughly about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of a rotation. I don't want to make a super big adjustment unless I have to. Next shot, here we go. That's even better. We're almost at a bullet hole. We've still got plenty of spring tension. You know, I'm nowhere near being worried about it not being enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a little more off because we're getting gradually better. Okay. See where we end up this time. Here we go. Now that is looking pretty good. We'll make sure it'll repeat. I don't like to just get like one bullet hole and then be like, okay, she's good. Let me make sure I've got my rest good and tightened up. These older ones are bad about working loose, so I'm gonna make sure I didn't put the hammer down on it just yet. Now we should be good. Make sure all these are tight. Okay. I like to get 2 or 3 repeatable bullet holes before we call it. Okay. I'm thinking we're gonna call it good. Let's chronograph it. What do y'all think? I don't know. I'm gonna weigh this arrow real quick so that we'll know roundabout weight. So we got a 505 grain arrow. Not bad. I've still been wanting to set up an arrow like this, maybe with feathers, a big 24-13, see what it does and slay a deer with it. So we got a 505 grain arrow. We got a 65 pound, 29 inch draw bow. I don't remember what this thing was rated at. Honestly, it was probably like 300 IBO, maybe even less. What do you think she's gonna shoot? Let's see. I'm gonna guess we're around the 255, 260 mark. 100 grain tip in the front. .238. We're a little slower than I thought, but it ought to have some decent kinetic energy. I think the biggest thing I would do with this bow is definitely put some sort of a stabilizer on it, and I wouldn't put a little one because this thing jumps. I mean, it straight up jumps. I'm having a hard time not gripping it when I shoot it because I'm worried it about jumped out of my hand that first shot. But we got them ready to go. We'll do an overview of the bow here so you can see what the final product looks like. But if you need anything, if you need any bow strings, check out Archeryshackstrings.com. If we can answer any questions about your bow, or if you're having trouble at home tuning and we can help, look in the, we've got all our contact information, our email, all that in the description down there. Just let us know what we can do to help you out. We'll be happy to do it. Thank you for tuning in and watching this. We'll try to get some more stuff out here soon. Thursday nights we go live and have a Tech Talk live feed. And then on Tuesdays we have our podcast that comes out. So check all those out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see y'all on the next video.